The scene opens with Hanayaji seated in a chair as Lady Kikyu stands before him, leaning in close. She questions why butler shirts are designed so that the tie remains fully visible. Hanayaji meets her gaze as he begins to explain. Kikyu pulls the back of his collar, suggesting she thinks the design allows someone to hold the scruff of the neck easily. He explains that long ago, shirts had stiff collars that hurt the neck, so the ends were made to bend for comfort. Kikyu interrupts, saying she does not need all that extra information and only wants to know why he thinks his neck is being grabbed. Hanayaji admits that he has no idea. She accuses him of cheating. He insists he has no recollection of any wrongdoing. She claims he betrayed her recently by accepting a gift from a maid. Hanayaji clarifies that the maid was only returning a book he had lent her. Gently, he takes Kikyu's hand, the one placed on the back of his collar. He reminds her that they are not romantically involved. Frustrated, Kikyu insists that he knows how she feels about him. Many years earlier, Hanayaji, 4 years older, had been nearby since he began his training as a butler. An elderly man introduces him to Kikyu, explaining that he is the new servant. He introduces himself as Zenikaru Hanayaji and his intention to serve her faithfully. Kikyu notes his young age and doubts that he will last long in the position. Kikyu Hodo, only 8 years old, explains that she is the sole daughter and heir of the Hodo Corporation, having been endlessly spoiled by her father and grandfather, and with no mother to discipline her since her passing, she has grown used to getting her way. Hanayaji reminds her that she's also a child. Kikyu's surprised to meet someone so spirited at her age. However, she quickly brushes him off, curtly declaring that his presence is no longer required. The elderly man, Katsuru, instructs Zen to apologize immediately. The lad responds that Lady Kikyu is human, just like everyone else, and remaining silent toward her would be cruel. He explains that if no one speaks to her, she is likely to become very lonely, and that it is the responsibility of an attendant as a fellow human to prevent such isolation. Hearing this, Kikyu's eyes fill with tears. She reflects on how she has always felt a profound distance between herself and others. Yet, Hanayaji is the only one who has treated her without barriers, as if no distance exists between them. When Kikyu Hoodoo turns 17, she spends a day at school talking to her friend about her feelings for Hanayaji. She admits that she has liked him for a long time. Her friend responds exasperatedly, saying she has heard it countless times, as if it were a constant broadcast of Hanayaji news. Kikyu suggests that perhaps she should start sharing it publicly. Her friend insists that even as a childhood friend, she cannot continue listening. She points out that a romantic relationship between people of different social classes is futile and a complete waste of time, and urges Kikyu to pay attention to other gentlemen instead. Kikyu becomes frustrated and explains that she cannot consider anyone else while being with Hanayaji every day to such an extent. Her friend finally declares her hopeless and calls out to Ms. Misono. She asks if today is the day of her family's usual party. Misono confirms that it is, and her friend requests that Kikyu be allowed to attend as well. Misono, surprised, agrees without hesitation. Later, Misono turns to Kikyu and asks if she is ready to meet someone she might like, explaining that there will be many gentlemen at the party. Kikyu, feeling nervous, hesitates and says she is not prepared. Her friend encourages her to at least try going this once. Kikyu explains that she has plans to take Hanayaji to see a romantic movie. Her friend whispers in her ear that it could be a good chance to make Hanayaji feel jealous. Kikyu responds decisively, declaring that she will definitely attend. Later, Hanayaji comes to pick up Kikyu from school. He greets her warmly, and she informs him that Misono has invited her to the party. She asks him to drop her off at the host's house and also to take care of her outfit. Hanayaji agrees without hesitation. Once in the car, she notes that many gentlemen will likely attend the party. Hanayaji responds casually, acknowledging her observation. She asks him what kind of conversations gentlemen usually prefer and urges him to tell her. Hanayaji admits that he does not know for certain and suggests she simply stick to what she usually does. Kikyu insists that if it is the usual, she will simply talk about him. He reassures her that this will be fine, adding that if the guests are kind, they will understand. Kikyu, half-jokingly, declares that she will not follow the advice and then asks what she should do to make the gentleman like her. Hanayaji explains that meeting her partner's eyes and speaking sincerely will usually make a man fall for her. She accuses him of mocking her, noting that he clearly won't fall for such tactics. He calmly denies it. assuring her that he's only speaking the truth. Frustrated, Kikyu realizes his composure is so steady that she can't read him at all. Later back home, he helps her get ready, fastening a necklace around her neck and asking if she's satisfied. Standing close, he remarks that it suits her perfectly. A quiet thrill runs through her. This is exactly why she loves how he chooses her outfits and admires his refined taste. Hanayaji asks if there is anything else she desires. She requests a ring for her left hand on the ring finger. As he begins to put the ring on, she wonders if he will place it there himself. However, he places it on her pinky finger instead, which frustrates her, and she complains that it dashed her expectations. Hanayaji tells her that if she is displeased, she can put it on herself. She responds that there is nothing sadder than having to do it on her own. Finally, he declares that the preparations are complete and wishes her a pleasant time. He hands her the bag and offers to escort her to the entrance. Kikyu indicates that it is fine where she is, ready to leave. As Kikyu leaves, she tells herself that she is off to find her future husband, teasing Hanayaji by calling him a fool, but also thanks him for helping her look presentable. Walking away, she reflects that he constantly teases her and shows no interest, and she concludes that she may need to accept reality. She glances at the ring on her finger and notices that it is slightly too big. At the party, she observes the many people gathered and feels that there is little she can do in the crowd. She thinks about how several people had approached her before, but she had avoided them to come here. She silently apologizes if she caused any trouble. Some guests ask her to exchange contact information, expressing surprise at seeing her, and inquire if she is indeed the daughter of the Hodo family. Another guest asks about her son. While eating cookies, she remarks to herself that the treats are delicious, admitting that she is not very comfortable in this kind of social setting. She decides it would be best to have Hanayaji buy some cookies for her to take home. Kikyu walks alone at the party, lost in her thoughts. She realizes with frustration that she has once again forgotten about Hanayaji. He does not even show any signs of jealousy over her, and she feels as though she has been living in a dream rather than facing reality. She wonders why she even came to the party. A young man approaches her, concerned for her well-being, asking if she feels unwell and if she had called for someone. Kikyu, flustered, assures him that she is perfectly fine and apologizes for the misunderstanding. Relieved, he asks if he may sit next to her, and she happily agrees. The young man thanks her and remarks that since she has remained reserved the entire time, he wondered if she might be a kindred spirit. He explains that he came with a friend, although he does not enjoy such gatherings. Kikyu, catching his meaning, expresses understanding and asks if he came with someone else. He asks why she attended the party, and she admits quietly that she came hoping to get the attention of the person she likes. When he asks if that person showed up, she explains that he would never come to a place like this. She reflects that she had thought perhaps if she invited him, he might feel jealous, but he gave no indication of such feelings. The young man inquires if that is why she feels disappointed, and she confirms that it is. She confesses that she could not achieve what she had intended, so she is giving up. So, she might as well make a friend and then return home. The young man asks if she is not looking for someone new romantically. She admits that she was not fully aware of her own feelings. He responds that it is surprising there is no one else who stands out to her, and he realizes that she truly likes this person. Kikyu acknowledges silently to herself that he is correct. She loves him very deeply. The young man expresses that he is glad to hear her thoughts, and Kikyu thanks him for listening. He tells her it is nothing, and that he is supporting her. She realizes she has not asked his name yet, and he introduces himself as Isumi. Kikyu suggests that they become friends. At that moment, Hanayaji arrives at the party. Kikyu, surprised, asks why he is there. He reminds her that it is past her curfew and insists they return home. He takes her hand and helps her to her feet. Kikyu protests briefly, saying she was still talking, but he guides her out. As Hanayaji leads her away, Kikyu apologizes to Isumi for the sudden departure, expressing her gratitude. He responds politely, asking her to take care. As they begin heading home, Kikyu asks Hanayaji why he came along. She notes that it is not yet past her curfew, but he explains that the head of the family was very worried. Kikyu thinks about her father, commenting that he is overly protective. Hanayaji gently takes her hand as they walk, and she asks if he was truly concerned. He admits that it is only natural since she is his master. She exhales lightly, murmuring to herself about the term master, then turns to him with a more serious question, asking how she could make him like her at the very least, how to learn to love someone new. Hanayaji tells her that he cannot teach her such a thing. Curious, she presses him further, questioning why he thinks this is impossible. Hanayaji, looking into her eyes, asks why she believes he has served her so diligently, and why he avoids her even when she openly expresses her feelings. As he holds the necklace around her neck, he asks how she thinks he feels when dressing her. Then softly, he kisses the necklace and assures her that everything is fine. He reminds her of the social boundaries in place. As a high school student and the sole daughter of a conglomerate, it would be absolutely unacceptable for a mere butler to make advances toward her. Kikyu responds firmly, telling him not to betray her trust. Hanayaji leans close and whispers in her ear, reminding her that they are returning home. Kikyu thinks to herself that it is so unfair, feeling frustrated that he will not simply be honest with her. She reflects that this is precisely why she is so captivated by him. Overwhelmed by her emotions, she confesses her love to Hanayaji, and he calmly acknowledges that he is aware of her feelings. Kikyu sits in class, lost in her thoughts. Her mind drifts to Hanayaji, and she realizes how long she has been holding these feelings inside. For years, she has admired him and held on to the hope that one day her emotions would be returned. Every day, she tried to get closer to him, but he never showed any sign that he understood her efforts. Even then, she kept believing that the moment would arrive eventually. There were times when she almost gave up because it felt too difficult to continue holding on. Now, in her mind, she feels certain there is no longer any need to fear anything. She believes she has discovered that Hanayaji shares her emotions, and this thought fills her with confidence. She thinks that the path ahead is filled with happiness and that nothing can go wrong anymore. She imagines a future where they walk forward together, full of hope and joy. However, she is completely absorbed in this dream. In reality, nothing has been confirmed between them at all. They are not even together. Yet she remains content in her thoughts, believing her feelings are mutual and her future is secure. Her friend glances at her and notices her glowing expression, realizing that Kikyu is still caught up in her joyful fantasy, unaware of the real situation around her. The teacher returns the midterm exams, leaving her shocked, and calls her to the staff room for what turns into a counseling session. When asked why she dropped from first to last, Hudu reveals it's due to love sickness, her 9-year-long crush. The teacher congratulates her, relieved it's nothing serious, and reminds her to aim for better marks on the makeup exam. She adds that she will speak with the university, but Kikyu must first show improvement. Kikyu expresses her gratitude and firmly decides that she cannot fail again. She tells herself that she must increase her focus and study properly. After school, her driver arrives to pick her up, but it is not the usual one. Today, the person waiting for her is Takami. As she sits in the car, her thoughts drift again. At home, the responsibility of tutoring her normally belongs to Hanayaji, and she wonders if she will be able to stay focused. She usually receives lessons before the test period, and when preparing during exam time, she studies alone, even when she drifted off. During review, no one pointed it out. This time, she wants him to help her, even if just slightly, so she can improve her marks. Deep down, she wishes to spend more time with him, though she tells herself that is not the real reason. She thinks she should inform him about her results, yet worries that he will think poorly of her. A fear rises in her mind that his feelings might change if he knew she failed. Her imagination jumps to dramatic possibilities, and she worries about him abandoning everything and leaving suddenly. She even considers telling her father, but immediately realizes that would only bring trouble. She then begins wondering whether asking him to tutor her might be interpreted in a way she does not intend. After sorting through her thoughts, she decides that she will simply request help with studying and endure it. She settles on saying one straightforward thing, convincing herself this is enough for now, even though she is not fully satisfied with her choice. Hanayaji sits beside her, explaining the lesson and gently placing a hand on her shoulder as he points out a mathematical formula. Kikyu becomes aware of his closeness, and her focus falters. He picks up her notebook to show a repeated mistake, asking how many times he has corrected it. Internally, she feels he's being strict while he quietly blames her lack of attention. He expects her to look at him, and she slowly turns her face toward him. He lifts her chin and lightly touches her cheeks, leaving her flustered and panicked. This was all her imagination, though in reality, the driver watches her become quietly lost in her own thoughts again. As she returns home, Hanayaji looks over her report and asks if there is anything she needs to mention. She quietly informs him that the school has already reached out to her home. He listens and then questions whether she was so overwhelmed by her emotions that she could not stay focused. She admits it. He then clarifies further, asking if she was unable to concentrate even during the test itself, and she confirms again. He remarks that her excitement must have been noticeable to the point where it drew attention, and even he felt uneasy watching her behavior then. His tone suggests that while it may sound like acknowledgement, it is not meant as admiration. He explains that he sensed something was off, but did not think the situation would be as severe as it turned out. From the type of exam questions, he believes she would normally have solved them easily. He tells her that the most important thing now is to achieve a strong score on the retest. What has already happened cannot be changed, so there is no reason to dwell on it. With that, he suggests they go over the material again, focusing on more complex practice problems so she can regain her usual level of performance. She notes that he continues to act without even a hint of gentleness. During this time, he hands her a sheet of paper and a pen. He looks at them and asks what she intends to do. She hesitates before explaining that she has a small request to make before they begin their study session. He waits, and she asks him to repeat a word near her ear, just as he did once before. He responds by remarking that she has been unusually slow to understand lately. She insists that this is not what she meant, and tells him she simply wants him to speak to her without the usual formal manner of address. He asks if she is truly reflecting on her recent behavior. She says she is, but admits she cannot control the overwhelming sense of happiness she has been feeling. She explains that her joy came from the thought that they might finally be standing on equal ground again, just as they once were when they used to speak without reserve. He answers that time has passed and that both of them have grown since then, and he returns to focusing on their study session. Kikyu silently thinks to herself that she believed they had finally reached an understanding, but realizes that it is not as simple as she imagined. She wonders what he has been thinking since that day, and whether he feels the same way she does. The thought crosses her mind that perhaps he is not experiencing the same happiness she feels. Hanayaji stands and places his hand on the table, noting her lack of focus. He decides to arrange another tutor and turns to leave, but Kikyu grabs his hand, asking him to stay. He refuses, and she insists that a little more time won't hurt since they now share feelings. He replies that he never said he liked her. Surprised, she asks if he truly doesn't. Stepping closer, he asks how she wants him to say it and what she thinks of him instead. Annoyed, she tells him not to turn the question back. He takes her words as an answer, leaving her upset by his cold tone. He then lists how she sees him polite yet distant, clever, strict, serious, and precise. In her thoughts, Kikyu admits that even his rare kindness feels deliberate, but carries a quiet clumsiness that makes it unexpectedly sincere. Kikyu clenches her teeth and blurts out that she likes every part of him. Hanayaji responds calmly, as if her words mean little. In her thoughts, she wishes he would say the same. It is only a few words, yet he never crosses that boundary. She realizes that despite everything, they are still separated by formality, bound by titles and distance. After a pause, Hanayaji speaks again, saying he now understands that his presence is only holding her back. He straightens, then steps toward the door. With a polite bow, he adds that what he said before was a mistake and asks her to forget it before quietly taking his leave. Kikyu sits in shock, replaying his words and wondering what he meant by calling it a mistake. She questions if he now dislikes her or if everything between them is being erased. Realizing she may have misunderstood his feelings and let herself believe too much, she still silently wishes he would return. A sound outside catches her attention, and she softly calls his name. Instead, a woman enters, introducing herself as Yatsuhashi, Hanayaji's temporary replacement. Kikyu greets her politely and apologizes. When asked what's wrong, she admits she fears Hanayaji might hate her. Yatsuhashi disagrees and suggests that if he doesn't notice her feelings, she should try something bold. The next day, Kikyu angrily confronts Hanayaji about accepting a gift from a maid, accusing him of hiding behind Yatsuhashi. Later, Yatsuhashi tells her she has noticed Hanayaji acting unlike himself, missing details, forgetting items, and seeming distracted. She believes it's not just Kikyu who's affected. Surprised, Kikyu thanks her and promises to do her best. Kikyu reminds herself that her weak state is unacceptable and that she must regain her composure. Determined, She resumes her studies and prepares for the upcoming makeup test in English communication, scheduled for 3 p.m. on the final day. When the results are announced a few days later, she returns home joyfully. Hanayaji greets her as she excitedly approaches him, sharing her perfect score. He responds calmly, noting the sudden change in her mood. She insists that he should never again call his earlier words a mistake. Hanayaji admits that he was the one who caused her to say them. Filled with happiness, she promises to keep working hard so she will not bring him shame. Hanayaji, maintaining his composure, acknowledges her efforts and explains that he had only called his earlier words a mistake because of her distressed state that day, yet he already knew she would return with good results. He then calmly states that he is aware of her feelings for him and that both her performances reflect that emotion. Nervously, Kikyu mentions hearing from Yatsuhashi that he had been struggling with his work and quickly asks if he also has feelings for her. Hanayaji explains that it was he who instructed Yatsuhashi to tell her that. Hanayaji tells her that he does not remember ever teaching her such improper conduct, like grabbing someone by the collar or pushing them down, and assumes she must have learned that from someone else. He explains that he only wanted her to focus more on her studies, and for that reason, he arranged additional help by sharing his advice with her tutor. He adds that Yatsuhashi willingly assisted in this plan. Kikyu stands in shock as the realization strikes her. Everything she believed was sincere turns out to be false, and she understands that all along she has been unknowingly following Hanayaji's intentions. While sitting in the car, she reflects that love has the power to both strengthen and weaken a person, like a blade that cuts both ways. She thinks that perhaps she should be content with Hanayaji simply recognizing her feelings, at least for the time being. He then tells her that, as a reward for her perfect score, he will grant her any one wish she desires and asks her to think about it. Later that night, when he enters the night duty room, Hanayaji changes his clothes. As he looks down, he notices that he is wearing mismatched socks. Realizing this, he quietly remarks to himself, acknowledging his own carelessness. The following day, Kikyu sits in class, staring at her book as her thoughts drift away. She reflects on what it means to have a wish, wondering what she would ask for if she could have anything. The thought feels strange, yet exciting. Her mind fills with quiet dreams, taking Hanayaji's surname after marriage. Seeing him in both a tuxedo and a hakama, and once watching him grow his hair long, she envisions a life together filled with shared mornings, cherished days, and captured memories. What she longs for most is a love that endures through both happiness and hardship, a bond that lasts even beyond death. In her heart, she imagines the two of them passing their work on to their children before traveling the world together. She wants to stay by his side until the very end to see him off, and then follow after. Her thoughts break when her friend Tsugumi reminds her it's time to leave. Kikyu answers that she plans to visit his university since Hanayaji has the day off. She admits she changed her schedule just to see him. Tsugumi teases her but agrees to come along, and the two girls leave the classroom together, walking side by side. Kikyu feels surprised that Tsugumi decided to join her. She hadn't expected it, though Tsugumi confesses she had no particular plans for the day. As they reach the university, Kikyu hides behind a wall, quietly observing the scene ahead. Tsugumi glances at her and questions whether it's really a good idea to sneak around like that. Kikyu hesitates, thinking that if Hanayaji were to see her, he might become upset. Tsugumi points out that if that's the case, she shouldn't be lurking there at all, and adds that it isn't right to disturb him. Kikyu murmurs softly that it isn't about causing trouble. This is simply the only chance she has to see the real Hanayaji when he's not at work. Tsugumi sighs, wondering what makes him so special. Kikyu immediately answers that everything about him is. Tsugumi finds her certainty both surprising and unsettling. As they stand there, a familiar voice calls out to Hodusen. She turns and recognizes Isumi, who approaches with a friendly expression. Greeting him, she feels surprised to see him, and remembers that he studies at an all-boys school. He confirms it with a light tone, mentioning he never had the chance to tell her before. She introduces Tsugumi as her childhood friend, and the girl greets him politely, recalling his brief meeting with Hoda-san at a party not long ago. Isumi responds pleasantly, saying it's nice to see them again. He asks what brings them to the university that day. Tsugumi replies vaguely about a campus visit, though it's clear that isn't their real reason for being there. Isumi nods and says there was actually something he wanted to discuss with Hoda-san. The The three of them stand together as the moment turns from coincidence into quiet curiosity. While they talk, Hanayaji suddenly appears before them. His calm voice cuts through the moment as he asks what they are doing there. Kikyu freezes, her eyes widening as she looks at him. Her heart races at the sight. This is the first time she has seen him in casual clothes. The realization fills her with quiet excitement, though she struggles to keep her composure. Hanayaji turns to Isumi and politely apologizes for interrupting their conversation. Isumi recognizes him immediately, recalling their previous encounter. Hanayaji offers another courteous apology for what had happened before. Isumi asks whether they managed to return home before curfew that time, and Hanayaji confirms they did, expressing gratitude. Hearing this, Isumi nods, relieved to know everything went smoothly. After a moment, Isumi notices Kikyu's flushed face and comments on it with concern. Hanayaji explains that she often feels unwell when the seasons change and mentions that they should excuse themselves for now. Isumi agrees and asks Hanayaji to take care of her. With that, their brief meeting ends, leaving behind a quiet tension as they part ways. Hanayaji calls Takami-san to take Lady Kikyu home, but she interrupts the call, insisting that he will escort her instead. He calmly tells her not to be hasty and to do as she wishes, but she explains she wants to spend a little more time with him since their meetings outside are so rare. Maintaining his composure, he advises her not to throw a tantrum and subtly points out her nosebleed. Embarrassed, she excuses herself and goes to wash up. After she leaves, Hanayaji turns to Tuji, who is seated nearby. He apologizes sincerely for the disturbance, but she looks unimpressed, questioning what kind of scene she's witnessing. She remarks that despite the commotion, she came because there's something she wants to discuss. Tugi asks what he's thinking, acting this way when he is only a butler. Hanayaji replies calmly, saying that talking with her always feels like being questioned in an interrogation. He adds that her constant teasing of Kikyu is partly what causes these complications. Tugi counters that he should be the one maintaining the boundary between them. She says Kikyu may be patient and easily pleased by attention, but it's his duty to stay professional. Hanayaji answers formally that he will take her advice into account. Tugi grows irritated with his polite tone and tells him to stop sounding like a customer service employee. Changing the subject, she says she came because of something she heard regarding the recent party. She questions why he suddenly seems to care now when he never showed interest before. Tugi suggests that perhaps seeing Kikyu interact closely with another man pushed him to reveal his feelings. Hanayaji replies that the entire situation began because of her, reminding her that she was the one who encouraged Lady Kikyu to attend the event. If she hadn't done so, there would have been no reason for her to be upset now. Tugi reacts sharply, calling him cowardly for admitting he would have stayed silent otherwise. Reflecting on his words, Tugi thinks she never expected him to go so far as to confess. She remembers how she once appreciated the distance he maintained with Kikyu, respecting the limits of their relationship. But now, frustration stirs within her as she realizes he has crossed that line. She thinks about how foolish it was for him to imply feelings, to promise Kikyu a wish, and to give her hope. She questions whether he truly cares for Kikyu, whether he believes they have any future together, and what his real intentions are behind his actions. Hanayaji remains composed as he faces her. He explains that if he admitted to having feelings for Kikyu, she would accuse him of overstepping his position, yet if he denied them, she would call him a coward. No matter what he says, he tells her it would never satisfy her, so he sees no reason to give an answer. Instead, he asks what it is she truly wants. Tugi responds that all she wishes for is to see Kikyu happy. She doesn't want the girl to be hurt in any way. Hanayaji quietly agrees, saying he feels the same. Tugi rejects his agreement, insisting she doesn't want his approval. Hanayaji gives a faint smile, admitting that he knows his words often irritate her, but pain is something no one can completely avoid. He expresses hope that she'll remain strong and continue to watch over Kikyu despite everything, adding that she possesses the kind of inner strength he lacks. Frustrated, Tujia raises her voice, calling him irresponsible and accusing him of doing nothing but giving warnings. She wonders aloud what Kikyu could possibly see in someone like him and declares her dislike for him outright. Hanayaji stays calm, taking a sip of his coffee before saying she's free to feel that way and that he will act according to his own judgment. 2G, still irritated, retorts that he's always evasive and overly composed, speaking in a tone that feels distant and superior. She criticizes his habit of concealing emotions and keeping everything restrained, her anger showing clearly as their conversation continues. Kikyu returns carrying several ice creams and snacks. Noticing the tension between them, she tries to lighten the mood by offering food and praising the cafe, hoping they'll calm down. However, both remain silent, the air still heavy from their earlier exchange. After a while, Tuja picks up her bag and decides to leave. Kikyu, surprised, asks why she's going so soon, but she gives only a short remark before walking away. Kikyu thanks her, still confused, and watches as Tuja turns back once before leaving. When she is gone, Kikyu looks at Hanayaji and asks why things always feel awkward after they talk. He replies that it always ends that way with Tuja, and tells her not to worry. When he asks about her nose, Kikyu replies that it has stopped bleeding. Hanayaji says that's good and suggests taking a taxi since he feels bad calling their driver every time. Kikyu refuses, saying she wants to walk home with him and quietly asks if he will walk her home. Hanayaji agrees that the distance isn't too far to walk. Hearing that, Kikyu brightens and decides they should go together. She then asks if they can stop by a shop first, wanting to change her outfit since he's dressed casually. Hanayaji looks at her questioningly, unsure why she would change just for a short walk. She explains that it feels different walking beside him instead of sitting separately in the car, where he's usually in the driver's seat and she's in the back. Kikyu pauses, recalling his earlier words about granting a wish. She begins to wonder if what she's asking could count as one. The thought makes her hesitate as she quietly debates whether to use that chance now or save it for another moment, uncertain if this is the right time. When they arrive at a clothing shop, Kikyu looks around and quietly wonders if Hanayaji is being more gentle than usual. She remembers that he rarely agrees to anything unless it counts as a wish, and begins to think she might be expecting too much from him. After a while, she picks out an outfit and calls for his opinion. When she steps out wearing it, he gives a simple compliment, calling it lovely. Hearing that, Kikyu feels a slight pang of disappointment, thinking he always says the same thing and that it sounds unoriginal. Hanayaji notices her reaction and bends slightly, watching her with curiosity as if asking what kind of response she wants instead. She explains that he could describe it differently, perhaps by saying she looks cute or mature. Hanayaji pauses, considering her words carefully. Kikyu then admits that even if he told her the outfit didn't suit her, she would still be happy just to hear his honest opinion. He meets her gaze and tells her calmly that every word he says to her is sincere and always meant. As they walk together, Kikyu's thoughts drift again. She reflects on how just a few kind words from Hanayaji can affect her so deeply. Even the smallest moment of sweetness is enough to shake her heart, yet she still finds herself longing for more. She wonders if it's all right to believe that, somewhere in his mind, Hanayaji also wants to be with her. After a while, she mentions that she might be dressed too lightly. Hanayaji takes off his coat and places it over her shoulders. She thanks him softly, then comments on how the days seem to be growing longer. He replies that night seems to come quickly despite that, and she agrees. As they continue walking, Kikyu feels a quiet peace. Whether they talk about ordinary things or remain silent, simply walking beside him feels enough. These calm, shared moments are what she truly longs for. She wishes they could last forever, yet deep down she knows every moment must eventually end. Still, she hopes for a future that keeps them side by side. Tears fill Kikyu's eyes as she turns to Hanayaji and asks if he would truly grant any wish she made. When he agrees, she questions whether he would still obey if her wish were something extreme, even if it meant ending his life beside her. He looks at her calmly and answers without hesitation. She then asks what if her wish were to marry him that very moment, and he replies that he would fulfill even that as her greatest wish. Overwhelmed, she tells him she wants to hear his real feelings. Her voice trembles as tears continue to fall. Hanayaji takes her hand gently and speaks her name, but before he can say more, her father enters, calling out to her. Startled, Kikyu turns toward him and greets him. Her father looks at the two of them in surprise, questioning what exactly they are doing together. The scene transitions to Kikyu greeting everyone. She explains that she is unexpectedly about to start a potential fiancé interview event. A few days earlier, her father had seen her and Hanayaji together and questioned them about what they were doing. Kikyu tries to explain, but before she can finish, her father interrupts angrily. He states that he has just returned from overseas and was shocked to see them walking together in casual clothes. While looking out from his car window, he saw them holding hands and could not believe his eyes. Filled with worry and anger, he followed them, accusing Hanayaji of behaving improperly toward his daughter. He demands to know what happened in his absence and reminds Hanayaji that he has always trusted him because he behaved like a proper servant. Yubito insists that Hanayaji was meant to be her guardian, not someone to become involved with her in this way. Kikyu thinks to herself that her father is normally calm and understanding, but when it comes to her, he completely loses control. Hanayaji remains silent as her father continues, loudly declaring that he does not approve of their relationship. He complains that Hanayaji is not wealthier than him and begins comparing their social positions. Kikyu protests, pointing out that very few people in the world are richer than her father, but he keeps speaking, half serious and half joking. He tells her that her emotions might only be temporary, reminding her that she has studied in girls' schools since middle school and never had much interaction with boys. He suggests that perhaps she feels this way toward Hanayaji only because they have known each other for a long time. Kikyu answers firmly that she has always loved Hanayaji. Her feelings, she says, are genuine, just as her father has always loved her mother. Deep down, she knows that love between people from different backgrounds is never easy, and that such relationships often face many hardships. At that moment, Hanayaji calmly tells Mr. Yubito that Kikyu should also try to interact with other people. Hearing this, Mr. Yubito bursts out in anger, unable to believe what Hanayaji has just said. He expects a different kind of answer, one that would show commitment and certainty. Instead, he becomes even more furious, questioning whether Hanayaji is taking the situation lightly. He accuses him of being insincere and wonders if he truly has feelings for Kikyu. He even suggests that if Hanayaji does not, then he himself will find someone more suitable for his daughter. Turning to Kikyu, he insists there are many better men for her and points out that even Hanayaji seems to think she should meet others. Hearing all this, Kikyu stands frozen, unable to react. Her mind goes blank as her father continues to take control of the situation. Finally, Mr. Yubito decides to end the discussion, declaring that their relationship should be paused for the time being. Days later, during the fiancé interview event, Kikyu greets everyone and turns to her father, confused about why things have advanced so suddenly. Her father explains that this approach is faster and allows her to meet a variety of people at once. He adds that arranged meetings take too long and that using dating applications is out of the question. To him, it is more practical to rely on his own network to bring suitable candidates together. Kikyu cannot understand why her father treats the matter like a business plan, applying the same logic and efficiency to her personal life. He continues by saying that social media is unsafe and that from now on all communication should be through letters. He even declares that she is not allowed to meet anyone freely from this day onward. Physical contact, even after an engagement, is prohibited and marriage is to be considered far in the future. Listening to him, Kikyu silently wonders if such strict rules belong to a completely different time. She thinks about how her father's way of thinking feels so limited compared to her own. Because he never lets her speak freely, she still does not understand what Hanayaji truly meant that day. Doubt fills her mind as she begins to question whether he ever liked her in the first place. She wonders if their difference in status makes everything impossible. He once told her not to be unfaithful, yet also suggested that she meet other people. She cannot make sense of what Hanayaji is truly thinking. The interview begins, and Kikyu greets the first candidate with a polite smile. The young man introduces himself as Ishigu Hirotaka, a fourth-year university student, expressing his gratitude for the opportunity. He mentions that he has read several of Mr. Yubito's business interviews and seems eager to make a good impression. Mr. Yubito acknowledges his words and asks him to share more about himself. Ichigo explains that he has always been interested in programming and that his passion led him to start his own small business. He describes how he is now using that experience to create a system aimed at solving logistics issues. Growing up in a business environment influenced him deeply. His father manages a trading company, and he often heard discussions about work since childhood. As he begins to bring up Mr. Yubito's company, Kikyu interrupts, realizing that the conversation is turning into a professional exchange rather than a personal one. She reminds him that the purpose of this meeting is not business-related. Her father supports her point, saying that the event is about finding someone who would truly value his daughter. Ichigo tries to defend himself, saying that business is also important, but his words lose strength under Mr. Yubito's stern reaction. Kikyu watches quietly, surprised by how quickly her father dismisses the candidate. She did not expect him to be this strict, and realizes that he is taking the matter far more seriously than she imagined. Finally, her father instructs the assistant to bring in the next participant. Another candidate enters and introduces himself confidently, complimenting Kikyu on her appearance and mentioning that she looked just as he expected from her photograph. Kikyu responds politely, thanking him for his words. Before the conversation can continue, her father intervenes, agreeing that she is indeed beautiful, but immediately adds that anyone who begins with shallow remarks should leave at once. Soon after, another young man named Makuni arrives. He asks Kikyu if she has a particular type of person she is drawn to. She answers calmly that she has never really thought about it. Her father cuts in again, saying that those who change themselves only to suit someone else's preferences lack conviction and should also leave. Kikyu looks at him, surprised, and quietly questions whether he is judging everyone too quickly. A short while later, another participant enters. He turns to Kikyu and asks how many people she has dated before. The man, whose name is Shinomiya, admits honestly that he has dated about 4 women. Mr. Yubito responds by acknowledging that, given Shinomiya's family background, that number is not excessive, but since Kikyu would not be his first relationship, he declares the meeting over and tells him to leave as well. Another participant introduces himself as Gomu. He expresses his wish to build a future with Kikyu and admits that he has no dating experience. Mr. Yubito immediately rejects him, stating that someone without experience cannot properly take care of his daughter and instructs him to leave. After several candidates are turned away, Kikyu finally loses her patience. She feels her father is being unreasonable and that his constant criticism of every participant is unfair. It seems to her that he is simply finding faults in everyone. The idea of her getting married makes him uncomfortable, and because of that, he keeps rejecting every candidate without giving them a chance. She cannot understand why he even arranged the event in the first place if he planned to dismiss everyone from the start. Just then, the manager enters and apologizes for interrupting. He hands over a file containing information about the next candidate, explaining that the person is the heir of Matsukura Motors, named Kadoya. Mr. Yubito asks if Hanayaji was the one who organized the event. The manager confirms that the Rakakura heir contacted them the previous night and did not have enough time to complete the documents. Hanayaji arranged his early arrival, gathered verbal information, and prepared the notes himself. He adds that all the files for the day should already be in the stack. The manager further mentions that Hanayaji has been outside managing the guests who were turned away, ensuring that everything remains orderly. Hearing this, Mr. Yubito agrees to proceed with the interview properly this time, and Kikyu quietly asks him to do so. Another participant enters and introduces himself as Matsukura Keishin, a second-year student in high school. He mentions that he is a member of his school's ballroom dance club and has heard that Kikyu used to dance as well. Kikyu replies that she only practiced dance until her early school years. Kishin then politely asks if she would be willing to share a dance with him. Kikyu accepts his invitation, saying she would be glad to. Inside, she feels uncertain. The situation makes it difficult for her to decline, but she begins to wonder if she still remembers how to dance after such a long time. Mr. Yubito turns to his manager and asks for music to be played. The manager agrees and prepares to arrange it, but Hanayaji steps forward and offers to play instead. After a short pause, Mr. Yubito allows him to do so, and Hanayaji takes his place at the piano. As the music begins, Kikyu realizes that Hanayaji is the one playing. The sound feels both familiar and distant at the same time. Memories surface of how, in the past, it was Hanayaji who had taught her how to dance. Now, as she moves with someone she barely knows, he sits apart, playing for them. Even though he is only a short distance away to her, he feels far beyond reach. While dancing, Matsukura praises Kikyu for her skill, impressed by how naturally she moves. She responds politely, saying it is only because of his steady guidance. He smiles and tells her that her words make him happy, admitting that he would never have guessed she had not danced in such a long time. Kikyu adds that it must be because she had a good teacher in the past. Matsukura comments that it is admirable how she always shows gratitude to those around her. As she begins to respond, she suddenly loses her balance and starts to fall. Before she can hit the floor, Hanayaji steps forward quickly and catches her. Concerned, he asks if she has hurt her ankle. Then, turning to Matsukura, he requests permission to escort her back to her seat to make sure she is all right. Matsukura agrees without hesitation. Hanayaji carefully supports Kikyu, guiding her back to her chair and helping her sit down. He asks if it hurts when she tries to move. Kikyu insists that she is fine and tells him not to worry, but he kneels slightly and checks her ankle to be certain. After looking closely, he says it appears to be fine for now and asks her to let him know if there is any pain later. She thanks him softly. Watching the scene unfold, Mr. Yubito sits in silence, taken aback by what he sees. The interviews continue with new participants arriving one after another. One introduces himself as Nanabayashi Naoki, explaining that he studied international economics in college and now works for a securities company. Another, Yatsurugi Minato, mentions that he is 19 years old and currently studying business management at Toho University. As Kikyu listens to each of them, she reflects silently. Every candidate she meets seems polite and sincere in their own way. Some are calm and composed, others have a sense of humor, while a few display remarkable intelligence and knowledge. Each carries confidence and refinement that makes a strong impression. She realizes that if she spent more time with them, she might come to appreciate and respect them deeply. Yet she also knows that such feelings would be admiration, not affection. In her heart, she feels certain about where her emotions truly belong. No matter how many suitable candidates appear before her, she has already made her decision. For her, everything leads back to Hanayaji. The interviews finally end, and Kikyu leaves the room, mentioning that she needs some fresh air. As she steps outside, the atmosphere inside the office begins to shift. Mr. Yubito speaks to Kadoya, commenting on Zen's exceptional skill and dedication. Kadoya agrees. Acknowledging that Zen has been part of the company for 9 years, managing his work alongside his studies with remarkable balance, the conversation slowly turns toward the true purpose behind the day's events. Kadoya realizes that everything that happened was, in part, directed toward Zenokairu. It seems like a father's natural reaction upon hearing that his daughter might have someone important in her life. However, Kadoya corrects the misunderstanding, reminding Mr. Yubito that the two are not in a relationship and that he hadn't listened to what they were trying to say earlier. He further explains that Zen is someone who takes every responsibility seriously and would never act without first speaking properly. Throughout everything that has happened, Zen has remained composed, ensuring that all matters are handled carefully. He has been quietly watching over Lady Kikyu all this time, supporting her from a respectful distance. Hearing this, Mr. Yubito begins to realize the depth of Zen's character. The tension slowly fades from his expression as he accepts what has been said, coming to terms with it. In the end, he understands that there is little choice left but to acknowledge the truth before him. After some time, Hanayaji walks over to Kikyu carrying a glass of water. He reminds her that she had barely taken a sip during the interviews and tells her to make sure she stays hydrated. Kikyu thanks him softly, and as he begins to leave, she calls his name, stopping him from walking away. She then asks him why he had told her to meet other men. Hanayaji explains that if it could lead to her happiness, he would not object. He believes it is still too early for her to limit herself, and that it is better to remain open to possibilities, which is why he had suggested that she broaden her view. Kikyu responds by reminding him that he had once told her not to be unfaithful, and she remarks on how generous his words sound now. He acknowledges her statement and admits that it may seem contradictory. Looking directly into her eyes, he continues, saying that he trusts her feelings for him because she has expressed them many times before. He tells her that he does not mind where she goes or what she experiences, as he believes she will always return to him in the end. To him, being by his side is what brings her the greatest happiness. Hearing his words, she becomes lost in her thoughts. She feels conflicted as she recalls how the same person who encouraged her to keep her options open now speaks, as if their future is already determined. His attitude shifts between modest and self-assured, leaving her both frustrated and unsettled. It bothers her how easily he can read her feelings, always maintaining his calm composure. She wonders if he truly feels the same way she does. The uncertainty stirs inside her, and she thinks that if he cannot express it in words, then at least he should show some sign of being affected. Overcome by emotion, she grabs his collar and presses her lips against his. Hanayaji remains composed and points out her hesitation, lightly touching his fingers to her lips as he teases her before turning away. He then says that he is leaving and walks off. Kikyu stands there, stunned and embarrassed, questioning why she is the one feeling flustered. All she wanted was to understand how he truly feels, yet she still cannot find the answer. At that moment, a maid enters the room and informs her that she has a visitor. Just then, Isumi enters, catching everyone's attention. He apologizes for arriving without notice and explains that he came to return something Kikyu had dropped. When she asks what he means, he tells her he found it at the party as he was leaving. He then politely asks to take her hand. As Kikyu offers it, he slips a ring onto her finger. The sudden act leaves everyone present, Mr. Yubito, Hanayaji, Kadoya, and the maid completely shocked. Mr. Yubito demands to know who he is and what he has just done to his daughter. In response, Isumi apologizes for not introducing himself sooner. He states that his name is Kujuin Isumi and explains that he learned about the interviews being held for potential suitors. Although he was informed earlier that he was not officially invited, he decided to take the chance to appear anyway. Taking Kikyu's hand once more, he respectfully declares his intention to put himself forward as one of the candidates. I was in denial about my love, here I stand. I know I walked away had to find a person I'd become.